Hello, welcome to Cigar Corner. This segment of Cigar Corner is on the road. Here I am in lovely Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, and this is one of my favorite spots. I like coming here whenever I can. I like to come here and watch the changing of the seasons, watch the work that's being done to this place. This place here is Fort Mississauga, the lesser known of the two forts here in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Fort George is the much more popular one. It's the tourist attraction. It's just down the river that way. Both are owned and operated by Parks Canada. This site here, as far as I know from my understanding of its history, was set up as a rudimentary fort to be a defense against the American fort, which is right across the Niagara River, just behind the camera there. That would be Fort Niagara. It was set up as a temporary defense against Fort Niagara while they were building Fort George. If I'm wrong about that, I'll put a correction in the notes. And then it has been updated and maintained over the years. I believe it was last used as a training ground of the First World War. Again, I'll update that if that's incorrect. It now resides on a plot of land that is surrounded by a private golf course. But there is access to the fort because this is still a National Historic Site. You can see some of the more recent additions on the fort over here. They've put in a modern roof and they've put in some improved drainage, and they've repointed and fixed up the brickwork around the outside of the fort there because it really was deteriorating after a lot of years of water damage. So good to see that they're putting in the efforts to restore this particular site. We're going to go on a little tour around the place later. There's a new boardwalk going in on the other side of the earthworks over there, and I will also point out later where Fort Niagara is because it looks pretty cool from here. I like going there. I do War of 1812 reenacting there and at Fort George. So this is a common place to find me whenever the weather is nice and I've got the time to drive down, or whenever there's an event on and I'm here running around in wool. So today's cigar is one of my favorites. It's an Alec Bradley Raices. If I'm incorrect about the pronunciation of that, I'm sure you out there in YouTube land will tell me. This is a very nice cigar. Trying to get my hands on a box of them, but having a little bit of trouble through local distributors, so I may have to go online and try and track down a whole box. I've got a lovely little 3-cigar leather slipcase here that I use a lot. It's good if I'm carrying 3 cigars. It's also good if I'm carrying 1 or 2 small ones, and I can fit a lighter in there as well, so I'm good to go. On one of my other videos, I showed you my little tobacco tin travel pipe kit. I've also got a little travel cigar kit. This is a Bob's Chocolate Flake tin. And in there I've got a Colibri V cutter, which is my preference. I like to V cut. And I've also got a Regal 3-flame butane torch. And the good thing about this lighter is that if I'm traveling with this in the cigar case, I don't need a light, I don't need a cutter, because it's also got a punch built right into the bottom, which is pretty handy. I don't know about some of you out there, but I like to collect my cuttings and throw them into my all sorts pipe tobacco mix. Just a little bit of cigar leaf there. I've tried some of the cigar leaf heavy pipe tobacco blends. I'm not fond of them. I'd rather have a cigar if it's going to taste like that, or I'd rather have a pipe tobacco that tastes like something else. So I'm not going to knock them too much just because they're not in my wheelhouse. But I do like to add just a little bit. I mean, waste not, want not. And you can't hurt in an all sorts. An all sorts is just an adventure anyways. I like to do a single V, although if it is drawing tightly, I will do a double V to make a cross cut, or I can do 2 more to make a crown cut. There's all kinds of different cuts you can do with all kinds of different cutters. It's all about what you prefer, what feels good in the mouth, and what gives the right draw for each cigar. This cigar, unfortunately, suffered a little bit of damage on the way over here, and the wrapper is starting to come off. It was actually stuck in its cellophane wrap. It was pretty tight on it, and I actually had to damage it getting it out of there. But we'll see if it stays put. If not, I can just take the wrapper off. Nice toasty cigar. And I think one of the things I like about it is actually, it's been a while since I've come back to this after smoking a lot of pipe tobacco, and I think now I can pinpoint. It does have a Virginian pipe tobacco taste, which is very nice. It's sweet and it's light. A little bit toasty. Very enjoyable. Seeing as how we're out in a public place here, and in a park, I can readily just tap my ash on the ground out here. It's not too dry, too scrubby. Okay, that's gonna have to come off. That's just causing problems now. Much better. Along with today's cigar, I'm going to have a glass of wine. This is a local Niagara-on-the-Lake wine, the Chateau de Chaumet Cab Merlot. Don't want to knock the local stock, but I'm not expecting too much of it. And again, this isn't something that I would do if I were sampling the cigar for the first time. I like to go into a sampling clean, but because I know I really like the cigar, I've had it many times, I'm gonna enjoy a beverage with it. And these are great, the little travel cups. This one is see if you can hear the plastic on the mic. It's pretty soft plastic, so this can throw in a bag or a pocket, carry it around. It's not going to break. Stemless, good for red wine, and it's got a little thumb grippy in the side there. I actually picked this up at the Appleseed Cider Festival in Toronto a number of years ago. So, got a couple of these, and they're great for picnics. I have to see if the wind shifts here. I picked this spot on this particular part of the hill on the earthworks here because there were no midges, tiny little annoying flies buzzing around the place. Maybe they're not midges, maybe they're gnats. I think they're gnats. They don't bite, they don't itch, they don't attack you, but they do swarm en masse. And all around the top of the earthworks over here, the air is just thick with them. And as the wind shifts, it would not surprise me if they started coming over here. If the wind starts to let up a little bit, it makes it easier for them to fly around. But all in all, it's a very enjoyable little place and a very lovely time of day and a lovely time of year. Here we are in late spring. I suppose you might call it mid-spring. It certainly feels like late spring. It feels like early summer, and that's very nice. Well, I'm just going to enjoy myself here for a little while. Enjoy this cigar and enjoy this glass of wine. And get back to you when I can give you a tour around the place. So, see you in a few minutes. I don't often do this, but I do really like this cigar. And I do travel with usually a pipe tool with me. So I've got a check tool with a pick that I'm using as a cigar pick. So I can nub this right down to the end. It is a very nice cigar. Even at this point, with a lot of other cigars, I would have thrown in the towel with it by now. But it's still clear and toasty and not dark and tarry. So I'm going to finish this up, read a few more pages of my book, and then on with the tour. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look around here. So there's the fort as we saw it a moment ago. So if I turn the camera around and then go up this hill, through the bugs, you will see across the river there Fort Niagara, right on the peninsula. That's one of the oldest buildings in the area. The building right in the center there is what's known as the French Castle, and it was from French occupation of the territory. The fort was then rebuilt for the War of 1812, some new fortifications, and then some new fortifications rebuilt, I believe, at the time of the Civil War. And it's an impressive collection of buildings. A lot of fun to do reenactments at. Now, if we turn, we're going to go over here, go for a walk around the fort. Now, I want to correct myself earlier. I misspoke. I said that the fort was, Fort Mississauga here was being built at the time that Fort George was being built. What I meant to say was that it was being built at the time that Fort George was being rebuilt after the American capture of this area and the burning of Niagara-on-the-Lake, which at the time was known as Newark. This, as you can see, fort here, Fort Niagara right across the way. This was a very good strategic position. Sorry, the bugs are getting much worse here. Very good strategic position to help in the defense of this part of the peninsula while Fort George was being rebuilt after it was burned. And you can see the fort here in the center of this little square. Over here we have a sally port, which allows front access to the lake when it is not all locked up. I remember before they started these renovations, this was quite accessible, and you could go right through there and go see the lake on the other side. But now they have rather sensibly closed it off while they continue to do work on the fort. Over here, there's some new brickwork that's been put in on the top, but down at the bottom there, that little door leads into one of the old powder magazines. And on the other side of the main gates here, you can see the other powder magazine built into the earthworks here. And we'll just have a quick little look up the hill here, where you can see the golf course where the fort is situated. I also misspoke earlier saying that this fort had last been used during World War I. It was used as part of what was called Camp Niagara, which included Fort George and the Butler's Barracks through both the First World War and the Second World War. So that was the last official usage of this particular piece of real estate. And you can see here, that's the first hole of a 9-hole here, right on the golf course. It's a fun little piece of architecture here with a number of neat little features. Now we're going to go on a quick little walk around the fort. So this boardwalk has been put in within the last year, right around the fort here, with warnings that this is an active golf course. If it weren't for the COVID restrictions right now, I'd be keeping my ears open for someone yelling "4." But right now, the only people we've got walking along here are the groundskeepers, still maintaining the grass, and other people out for a wander like me. No golf balls, no imminent sport-based artillery landing on me. So this fort would have been all but formally abandoned by the British Army by the year 1858, at which point it was taken over by the Canadian Volunteer Militia. Volunteer Militia would have garrisoned or at least strengthened the fortifications of this particular fort during tensions at the time of the American Civil War, as well as during the Fenian raids in the area. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, would have been used during the First World War and the Second World War as part of Camp Niagara, a big training complex in the area. This down here is all new, by the way. This was all wooded. The last time I was here, you can see some of the old trees that have been removed from the earthworks. And just to take a moment here to have a look, that's Lake Ontario. Lovely body of water to live near. And now if we have a look out here over the water, you can see Fort Niagara. The big building right in the center there is what I referred to earlier, the French castle, the oldest part of the fortifications. That little building to the left of it is one of the old towers from the War of 1812 era. There's another one on the other side at the entrance to the fort. And that red roofed building on the right there is the U.S. Coast Guard depot or station. And it is keeping an eye on the mouth of the Niagara River here because this is an international border. Lots of fun stuff. So I've relocated from where I was, and I've gotten a little bit closer to the other side of the river from Fort Niagara so that I can put a little insert here of a better view of it. So you can see now from this angle that far left building at the end of the peninsula is what's known as the French castle or the chateau. And that's the oldest piece of the fortification, and that piece that's just to its right is the southern tower. There is a matching tower to that that's hidden from view right now. That is the gatehouse that's on the right of the fortifications. And again, those red-roofed buildings in the middle are the Coast Guard station, because this is still an international border. That's the upriver view leading up to Niagara Falls, up the river there. But you can see it is an impressive wall of fortification here against this side of the river, and it's pretty close. I'm going to drive down the street a little bit and get closer to Fort George so I can show you a little bit of what that fort looks like and what its sightlines were like on Fort Niagara. Now, keeping in mind that I'm going to use the same focal length of lens. So right now I've got a 70mm lens focused in on this fort. So for consistency's sake, I'll show you what the relative size of the fort is at this magnification from the next position. So we'll go to that now. Just a quick aside here in the middle of a longer video than usual. I've been talking about history for a little while, so I thought I should put some more tobacco content back in my tobacco channel. So as we go to check out Fort George up the hill here, I'm going to be smoking my Brigham Algonquin with some Escudo Navy Flake Deluxe. So let's move on and we'll check out the fort. All right, here we are. Just moved up the river a little bit, heading down the side road towards Fort George. You can see up ahead the palisade. And to the right, the gift shop. And we're going to go up right at the end of this little street here. There is a lookout. And if you could see me, I'd be using air quotes for the word lookout. It's a little observation point where you can see Fort Niagara from the fort's perspective. So let's go have a look at that. So here you can see, you should be able to recognize immediately across the way there, the red roof of the Coast Guard station that I've pointed out twice already. And if we zoom back into 70, where we were before, you'll see a little bit of that gate blockhouse. And just around that tree, I can't quite get around it, you'll see the French castle again from a third angle. So this would have been the view of Fort Niagara from Fort George here. There's the earthworks and the palisade, and we'll see if I can get a quick look in the front gates over there without anyone telling me to go away without paying, because it's closed, but the gate is open, so I won't go too far. Now, Fort George can be the subject of its own video sometime in the future, but for now, that is the blockhouse at Fort George. Very comfortable place to stay. I like to refer to it as my favorite hotel in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Very nice. So let's go back and we'll wrap up this video about Fort Mississauga. Well, that is it for today's installment of Cigar Corner on the road here at Fort Mississauga in beautiful Niagara-on-the-Lake. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've learned a little something about Fort Mississauga, and hopefully we can get some other historic sites in on this channel as well. Thank you for joining me, everyone out there in YouTube land, and I will see you next time. I am Cigar and Bar. Have a good day.